Oh, yes, everybody. It is that time of week once again. It is time. It's time for the Friday preview show. It's round 18 already. Can you believe it? Over 4.5 months of footy action has already unfolded. I can't believe we're going to miss footy in a couple of months' time. I've loved it so much. I love being in your ears and in your eyes all of this year at Slam Talk Sports. Of course, the Thursday recap. We'll get stuck into that in a second. Before we unpack, we get into, we talk about, we dissect the 8 games remaining. Before we do all of that, I want to say a quick word and a big thank you once again to the great team at AFL Fancast for having me on their show on Monday. You can still see my review from round 17 with the boys Joe and Steve at AFL Fancast on YouTube, but also our tips show where we talk about my tips for this upcoming round and our pontifications and predictions for what's going to unfold. Get a load of that if you can. Big thank you to Joe, to Steve, to Big Will, and to Dave, the whole team over at AFL Fancast. But that's enough about that and those great people. Let's talk about Thursday night football, and it was Carlton. Once again, those primetime Blues going down to the Brisbane Lions. What was the margin at the end? About 35 points. I said on AFL Fancast, they'll win by about 32-33, so not too bad, I must say. But yes, it was more of the same for Carlton and their supporters. Inaccurate kicking, the disconnection between their forward 50 and their midfield. And last night, some calamitous and often simple-minded turnovers in the back half, which was symptomatic of Carlton so far this season. Brisbane just classy, as always. They get the job done. After a low-pressure game against Port Adelaide on Saturday night, they really brought the heat against Carlton at Marvel on Thursday. 69 tackles in this contest. And the midfield, well, it was roaring as usual. Lachie Neale, Hugh McCluggage, who was a bit down after a tag due to Alex Chin-Cotta, mainly in the first 3 quarters, and of course Will Ashcroft got in their merry way. But the star of the evening was, of course, Josh Dunkley, who picked up the Robert Walls medal, the first time it's been awarded. Obviously a massive, massive figure at Brisbane and at Carlton. It was a great honour to see Joshy Dunkley, one of the most underrated players in the competition, win that award. It had me thinking, wow, he's a great player. He's been the perfect fit for Brisbane when they made that trade a couple of seasons ago. And also, rewind your mind back to 2020. Josh Dunkley asked out of the Western Bulldogs because they had so many great midfielders. They had Jack McRae, they had Marcus Bontempelli, they had Tom Liberatore. Josh Dunkley was the odd man out, often playing half forward or sometimes in the bloody ruck. Wow, Bevo, he is a genius sometimes. But yes, Joshy Dunkley could have been an Essendon bomber all those years ago. Unfortunately for me, the trade didn't go through. Essendon went to the draft and made some questionable draft selections. And now Josh Dunkley sits right in the top echelon of inside midfielders and has been a premiership star for the Brisbane Lions. If you're a Carlton fan, what do you take out of last night? I mean, the effort was improved in the first half. They were able to somewhat keep the margin manageable through the first quarter and a half. A lot of that was due to the inspiring and team-lifting goal of Mark Pittonet on quarter time. A 60-metre bomb from the Pitto. I don't think I've ever seen that from the big man before. But unfortunately, after that, things seem to be more of the same. Charlie Curnow, who worked more up the ground last night, still hasn't kicked a goal for a month. That is really disheartening, disappointing for such a quality player, and a player just had such a great goals record before that. Tell me if I'm wrong, but didn't Charlie kick a goal in like 50-something straight games, and now he can't seem to hit the side of a barn door? I'm not sure what to do with Charlie for the rest of the season. Do you play more up the ground? Do you try and just get him a goal for confidence by playing him deeper forward? Nothing's really worked over the past month or so. Tom de Koning, another low output game. I mean, he got the Bronxies in the second half from the Carlton fans. They're not happy with how he's performing at the moment, TDK. Doesn't seem too long ago that he was best on ground against Essendon. He had a great performance against West Coast. This was like 5-6 weeks ago. But I feel that the body language is low, the energy is low. He's not really feeling it, this forward role. He doesn't seem to be on the same page as the coaching staff because he's thinking, I'm a number one ruckman. I'm getting paid to be a number one ruckman at St Kilda. Why should I be playing deep forward? I know it helps the team structure with Harry Mackay being out, but I just don't see TDK as an effective forward right now. It's mindset, it's work rate, and the lack of forward craft for TDK. I've seen him play well as a forward as a junior. Of course, the 2022 elimination semi-final. It was 2023 or 2022 when they played Melbourne. Might have been 2023. That's right, because Carlton didn't make the finals in 2022 because they lost to Collingwood in the last game of the season. So it was the 2023 semi-final against Melbourne. TDK got the fire started. He got the ball rolling with an early goal, an early set shot, and it gave you confidence. Think this guy could be anything. He could be a centre half forward in a pinch. He could be a number one ruckman. We're just not seeing that at the moment, and I feel like his year is going to peter out similar to Carlton. Blues fans, let me know, what do you do from here? Do you make big sweeping changes? Do you make a little peripheral changes? Do you trade out, maybe, who do you trade out? That's the thing. Do you trade like a Blake Acres? Do you trade out like a Motlop? Someone who you think's got talent, or someone like Acres who's probably run their course in the team? Or do you make the big changes, the big sweeping moves that could change your club for decades? You trade out a Curnow, you trade out a Mackay, you even trade out number one pick in a Sam Walsh. I'm unsure what to do at Carlton, because is it game style? Is it the players? Is it the lack of skill, a lack of intelligence, or is it the whole thing and a big clean out is needed, which what Graham Wright might do in a month or so's time? I'm unsure, but Blues fans, it was more of the same last night. Let's look forward to a massive round of football, and we start the preview with Friday night football at People's First Stadium in the Gold Coast. It is the Gold Coast Suns taking on the Collingwood Football Club in what I see as the biggest game in Gold Coast Suns history. The Suns currently are inside the 8 and have the chance to really solidify their spot in the finals with a big win on Friday night. And for the Gold Coast, in my opinion, it is the biggest game because they haven't been in this position for a very long time. I cast my eye all the way back to 2014 when they played the Collingwood Football Club. I think it was round 16 of that season. Now, the Suns were in the 8 at that point in time, but unfortunately, a terrible shoulder injury suffered by Gary Ablett Jr., the best player in Gold Coast Suns history, curtailed and derailed that season for the Gold Coast. On that list, in that game against the Pies back in 2014, they had Tom Lynch, they had Steve May, they had Harley Bennell, they had Jager O'Meara, and of course, they had Gary Ablett Jr., the best player I've seen play football over the last 25 years. After that injury, the Suns' season went down the drain, and Collingwood, well, they stayed absolutely fine because they're the biggest club in the land. Tonight presents an incredible opportunity for the Suns to finally stake their claim as a contender for this season to take down the premiership favourite and announce themselves as a serious club in the AFL with a big win in front of their home fans. But will that happen? I do not know. It should be an absolute ripper. Let's look at the ins and the outs for Friday night football. And we start with the Gold Coast team. In for the Gold Coast Suns, Jared Witt's their former captain, and the former Magpie, of course. Also in David Swallow, their very first pick all the way back in 2010. Number 1, David Swallow. Out goes Ned Moyle, who deputised quite well for Jared Witts last week against the Essendon Football Club. And out goes Alex Sexton, of course, one of their old players and one of their earliest picks in their creation. In for Collingwood, it was a couple of big wins for the Magpies, I must say. In comes Steele Sidebottom, the 2010 and 2023 Premiership star, who's having a brilliant season for the Magpies. Also coming in is Lockie Schultz, their crafty and lively small forward they picked up from the Fremantle Football Club, and the Premiership player, I wouldn't say star, Premiership player, and one of the great stories in AFL history. Mason Cox comes back into the Collingwood side. Out goes Patrick Lipinski, my man Lapinka, who will miss with a managed. Is it just the managed? Is having the weekend off. Also, Brody Myhochek, one of the great mature age pickups of all time. He's also being managed. And out goes William Parker. The line for Gold Coast and Collingwood currently sits at 4.5 points. The Magpies are your road favourites. Now, I went on AFL Fancast, as I said, earlier in the week, and I said, it's time for the Gold Coast Suns. I look at the talent on both sides, pretty even. Collingwood are flush with great players. You've got your Dacosses. Even in your backline, you've got Moore, Howe, Quaynor, Maynard. This is why Collingwood are so strong. It is their back six. It's their ability to defend as a unit. But having said all that, I still think the Gold Coast Suns forward line can challenge them this evening. Ben King, Jed Walter, Ben Long, even their crafty half forwards in Flanders, Ainsworth, and Tuke Miller, who also run some time through the midfield. I think in Gold Coast conditions, in a night game, their first ever Friday night home game, the Suns will just get the job done. But it's going to be an incredibly close contest for my mind and a really, really gripping one. I think the Suns just get home, but hopefully we get one of the games of the year. Let's look forward to, betting-wise, a couple of things I don't mind for tonight's game. Let's start with Noah Anderson. Noah Anderson, currently equal favourite in the AFL-CA Coaches Award. I think he's going to have a big game. I think he's going to have a large one, actually. 30-plus touches, 25-plus touches, whatever way you want to play, whatever odds you're comfortable with. 25-plus seems an absolute lock for Noah Anderson, who's been doing it every single week. He had 20 in the second half last week against the Bombers. Excuse me. Also, I don't mind the former Magpie in Johnny Noble. Now, Noble is pretty much a lock for 20 most weeks. Only time he's gone sub 20 was in a very wet game against the Fremantle Football Club a couple of weeks ago. But I still think Nobes against the old team, against a team that gives up disposals to halfback flankers, is a very, very good shot to have 25. If you're feeling lucky, 25 Noble, 30 Noah. If you're not feeling as lucky, we think they get the job done, 20 Noble, 25 Noah. Magpie side of things, Nick Dacos' odds have pretty much been ruined for this one. We expect him to run free and do what he wants, but the odds are pretty bad for 25. If you want to get enticed by 30, you go for it. I won't be. I don't mind Josh Dacos for 25 disposals. He's been doing it every single week. I must say, both of the Dacoses were in COVID isolation or COVID protocols, whatever you want to call it. Neither of them had an infectious illness, at least I don't think so, but they were on managed programs. So keep an eye out on that one today before you lay any bets. Think of what you really could be using that money on. Always gamble responsibly. Now, we move forward to this Saturday afternoon game. And it is a ripping game for what is Big Boy Month and is the biggest round of the AFL season. We go to Marvel Stadium. So we see the Western Bulldogs take on the Adelaide Crows, a true top 8 showdown. It is 120 at Marvel Stadium. Now, the line, the Doggies are just favoured. I think this line's been moving a fair bit over the last 24 hours. Let me check for you right now what the exact line is. I thought it was 4.5 the Doggies' way. Currently, it is 9.5 the Doggies' way. The Doggies are 9.5 point favourites at home. Marvel Stadium, a ground they very rarely lose at, but they did lose to the Hawthorn Hawks a couple of weeks ago in what was another top 8 encounter. Let's look at the ins and the outs for this one. Now, no big ins or outs to really report. On the Bulldogs side of things, Sam Davidson comes back in. What a great player he's been this year. Great Supercoach selection as well. In comes Joshy Dolan. And out goes Lachie McNeil. Yes, the Aldi version of Lachie Neal. And out goes Taylor Duray, the 2-time Premiership Hawk defender. For the Adelaide Crows, in comes Braden Cook, the mid-size forward. In comes Chase Jones, the former top 10 pick from the 2018 Super Draft. And in comes Wayne Miller. Out goes Brodie Smithers, not so excellent for him. Out goes Lockie Murphy, who's been struggling with a little bit of form recently. And out goes Josh Rashelli, who has suffered a knee injury. Hoping to get Rashelli on my tally back in September, but we'll see how we go with his recovery. And Isaac Rankin is selected for his 100th game. What a magician Isaac is. Now, this is one of the great games and two very evenly matched sides, two very strong offensive sides who often put down the beat downs on the shit teams. What do you think is going to happen in this one? I see a game of high possessions and high scoring that the Dogs just get through. I don't see any real taggers or any run with players. Neither of these teams back in a little midget who goes and yaps and pinches people and says, I'm not going to let you get the ball all day. That's not how they operate. They are ball-winning sides. Bont, Richards, Libba. They should be safe for your multi, same as Jordan Dawson or a Jakey Saligo. I'm going to just side with the Doggies in this one. In terms of betting, there's a couple of things I don't mind. The odds I'm giving at the moment are all from the TAB. Now, I know sportsmen have brought in new markets, but I still find the odds at the tab to be slightly better right now. We'll investigate that over the coming weeks. Now, my selections for this game. I don't mind Marcus Bontempelli to have 20 disposals. I also don't mind Jordan Dawson to have 20 disposals. Both these players hit this mark every single week. They're not great odds, but as part of the money train I'm assembling, which I'll unveil at the end of the episode and on Twitter this evening, I think 20 plus touches for the captains and the prime movers is still a good bet. Now, gets a little bit riskier. I don't mind 2+ goals for Sam Darcy. Now, Sam Darcy kicked 3 goals in junk time last week, but we know the amount of entries that target him and how good he is over his head. So I still think Sam Darcy at $1.30 is not a bad shout for 2+ goals. Only requires 2 opportunities, Deadeye Darcy. And also another Deadeye for the Adelaide Crom. I don't mind Darcy Fogarty. Yes, Sam Darcy Fogarty. That's the name of the bet, actually. Darcy Fogarty can have 2+ goals. He's one of the best kicks in the league, but his form has been slightly down over the last month or two. I still think in an offensive game, we just saw what Nick Larkey did to the Doggies last Thursday night, and Cam Zuha chipped in as well. I don't mind the Crows Talls to get involved and kick a couple of goals. If you want to say, well, I like Riley Thilthorpe, actually. He's going to have more targets and he plays closer to goal, then that's fine as well. I'll probably do a version with Thilthorpe and one with Darcy Fogarty. But at the end of the day, I like the Doggies to just get home. And if you're looking for some anytime value, I don't mind Dan Curtin and Joel Frazier. They're both $2+. When I send anytime goal bets, I like them to be $2+ to get a little bit of value. But they are not locks by any means, but they do represent a little bit of value for your weekend bets. Move forward to what is going to be a great game at NG Stadium, 4:15 Saturday afternoon. It is the GWS Giants taking on the Geelong Football Club. Now, the line is 5.5 points. The Geelong Cats way. Yes, we have another road favourite, and the ins and the outs will allow some big ins for the GWS Giants. It's time to look at the teams. In for the GWS Giants, we have Lachie Whitfield playing game 250. What a great player Lachie Whitfield has been since being selected with the number 1 draft pick all those years ago. And also coming in, Jesse Hogan, the Coleman medalist from 2024. Shit, it's 2025. And I'm 31. That happened really quickly. Yes, Jesse Hogan is in for the GWS Giants. And out goes James Leake, the Leaky Cauldron, and Max Gruzewski. Yes, Max Gruzewski only got the 1 week in with Jesse Hogan being out last week. He's courting some offers, actually. Part of the Phoenix Management Group is Max Gruzewski, represented by Scott Lucas. Keen to see what he does in the off-season. And on the Geelong side of things, Bailey Smith comes in after missing last week with the mystery illness. And out goes Mitch Duncan, the stalwart and 300 gamer, my cousin Mitch. This is a tough one. It's a tough one matchups-wise and how the game's going to unfold. Geelong, the quickest ball movement team in the competition with their brilliant half-forwards in Myers, Graham Myers, and Sean Manor, in addition to their nice key forwards. Nice, I say nice. He's one of the best I've ever seen in Jeremy Cameron, and with Paddy Dangerfield now playing that Tom Hawkins role. On the GWS side of things, you got a midfield which I think is decent, but by no means dominant in Tom Green and Finn Callaghan. And you got to see what the Cats will do with them, because they're not themselves a great inside ball winning midfield. Sorry, you got your Tommy Atkins, who's only 5'11". You got your Jack Bowes, who's able to chip in a little bit, but mainly they win their ball on the outside. It is Max Holmes and Bailey Smith splitting out to the flanks and running down them, trying to get those meters gained. So what the Cats do with the Giants mids and major ball winners is what interests me from a betting side of things and a tactical side of things. So the Cats have employed a tagger or sometimes 2 taggers this year. The number 1 guy has been Oshin Mullen. Now, Mullen, over from Ireland, has been a very good run with or tagging role this year. Sorry, as I have my soy latte. Give me 1 second. That's good latte. So yes, as I said, Oshin Mullen has employed a tagging role on a lot of outside or smaller players. The issue is the Giants. Tom Green's 6'3" and Finn Callaghan 6'4". So I'm not sure how Oshin Mullen would go in a tagging scenario against those players. You might see Mark O'Connor do that sort of role, who is 6'3" himself and has had some success in the past in that position. Also, you've got Tommy Atkins, who's done roles against smaller midfielders, but he's been a tackling beast and a clearance king this year, so I don't see him being employed in that role. The line is 5.5. I'm going to just side with the Cats because I reckon they've been playing much better footy this year. And also because the great Sam Taylor, the best defender in the competition, is still out with that toe injury. So I find it hard to tip the Giants, knowing that Jeremy Cameron still plays for the Geelong Cats. My tips for this one, or my bets for this one at least, is Jeremy Cameron to have 2+ goals and Toby Green to have 2+ goals. Now, Jezza has kicked 10 goals in his last 4 games against his former team, the GBS Giants. Now, he had a 1-goal outing in those last 4, but he also had a 5-goal outing in amongst that. I still think Jezza, in the form he's in, having kicked 14 goals in the last 3 rounds, is a good shout for 2+ at $1.30. And Toby Green, I don't mind also for 2+. Now, Jesse Hogan comes back into the team, so obviously a lot of targets are going to go towards him. But Toby has had a really good record against the Cats in the past. So he's kicked an average of 2.8 goals against the Cats since 2020. That includes a couple of 2s and a couple of 3s. I just think with Hogan kicking 9 goals against the Cats at GMHBA earlier in the year, and what was a great win for the Giants, there has to be some more attention, and tactically, they have to try and put a little bit more work into Jesse, which could result in Toby having some premium opportunities in this game. Just with things with Toby is, you know what, if he kicks 1, I'm going to be upset, I'll live with it. But I know he's going to have chances. He might have 3 or 4 very good chances, and it was how well Toby can play in short spurts. He could kick 2 in 2 minutes, and we're happy as Larry. We're laughing at 2-1. He is the odds spooler in this week's multi. I don't mind a little bit of Toby Green in my life. Having said all that, I still think the Cats will just get the job done, but it should be an absolutely ripping contest to watch. Move forward to Saturday night football at the MCG. It is my Bombers. Yes, my Bombers. As you see the Essendon 1985 Premiership poster behind me, taking on the Richmond Football Club. Now, if you said, hold on, didn't these two teams just play each other in what was a shocking contest where Nick Martin and Zach Merritt had 56 disposals each? Well, then you'd be correct, okay? They didn't have 56. They might have that on Saturday night. But they did just play 6 weeks ago. We get another little rematch between these two historic franchises. Now, these are your ins and outs for what could be one of the most irrelevant games of footy in a long time, because both of these teams are nowhere near the finals. In for the Richmond Football Club is Jaden Short, who's missed a little bit of time with that calf injury. Comes back in Shorty. And also comes in Jacob Kazitsky, the former Hawthorn Hawk, now employed in a forward role, I'm looking like, just based on the ins and the outs. So I'm not so sure with Bolter, Olga, and Blight all coming out. But anyway, Jacob Kazitsky comes in for Richmond. Also comes in Taj Houghton, who's been playing some great footy in the VFL, their first round pick, I think, from last year. At least he was a high draft pick and now debuting for the Richmond Football Club. Also comes in Tyler Young and Mr. Precise James Trezise. I'll say that again. Mr. Precise James Trezise comes into the Richmond Football Club, and out goes Jacob Blight, Hugo Ralph Smith, Sam Lawler, who suffered what looks like a season-ending hamstring injury, Jasper Olga, Rhythm, and out goes Noah Bolter, who is said to have personal reasons. Hope he's okay. In for the Essendon Football Club is Mason Redmond, Elijah Satis, and Oscar Smart, who was picked up in the mid-season draft. Out goes Archie Perkins. Tastes like gherkins at the moment. Out goes Jai Caldwell, and out goes Jade Gresham. Obviously, Jai Caldwell suffered the syndesmosis ankle injury, and Gresham and Perkins have just been dropped because they're in shocking form. Any sort of big-name games? Well, Nick Vlosten plays his 250th game. The often underrated Tiger and triple premiership player is getting his big chance to celebrate his career on the MCG on Saturday night. Now, the line is 15.5 points Essendon's way. I personally think that's a little low, don't you? Essendon beat them by about 6 weeks ago, and just considering how Richmond are travelling, the fact they don't have Tom Lynch, Noah Bolter, Sam Lawler, a lot of top-end players, then I personally think Essendon will win by 3 goals. Not that they're in any sort of great form, the Bombers, but they have enough senior players, and their system, I think, will be able to get things done against the Richmond Football Club, which is mightily struggling at the moment and has lost a fair few games by a big margin. On the betting side of things, there's 2 players we must talk about, and of course they are Essendon Bombers. Has to be Nicholas Martin and Zachary Merritt. Now, Nick Martin had 40 touches. Was it 40 touches he had last time against the Richmond Football Club on Dreamtime when he won the I always get names wrong. I'm going to say Euken Award when he was best on ground about 6 weeks ago. Let me find actually the exact disposals from Marto and Mez in that one. Now, the game was round 11? Yes, Essendon won by 23 points. And disposals-wise, Nick Martin had 35 and kicked 2, and Zach Merritt had 37. I think they're both good shouts for 30 in this one, and the odds are not too bad. But considering his disposals have dropped the last 3 weeks, now that could be game style. Essendon played a more direct game style against the Gold Coast Suns, none more of these chippy, handbally, pass around the back, get our Supercoach numbers up sort of games from Martin and Merritt. But I still like them to have 25 plus. I mean, they're the smooth movers. They're the prime users at the Bombers. Marto can play all over the ground, so he usually starts at half forward, then just says, I'm going to play wherever I want. I'm going to play sort of the James Hird, Nick Dacos role, and I'm just going to roam around and impact any way I can. And Zach Merritt now returning to a midfield role, had 40 disposals against the Gold Coast Suns. I say returning because he played there predominantly rather than being shifted around in a bunch of positions to help Essendon's stability and flexibility. So, having said all that, I still think both are pretty much a lock for 25 plus touches, and you could get a little bit of value for them for 30. Also, I don't mind Sam Durham for 20 plus disposals. Of course, was the hero back in 2023 when he kicked the game winner against Richmond to end that cursed run against the Tigers, which was felt like 7-8 years of them always beating us. I don't mind him for 20 plus disposals just because Sammy Durham is now playing as that number 2 midfielder for Essendon. Darcy Parish is injured. Joe Caldwell is injured. Sam Durham's going to do the in and under work, so I don't mind him to have 20. Now recovered from that ankle injury he suffered against the Brisbane Lions and off that suspension he was given out for that bump on Adam Chera on King's birthday eve. Let's move forward to the other Saturday night game on the other side of Australia. We go to Perth and what could be a wet and wild contest. It is the Fremantle Football Club taking on the Hawthorn Hawks. Those damn Hawks. Now, the line in this one is non-existent. There is no line. It is 0.5. The Hawks are favourite by 0.5, and that line has shifted over the last 24 hours. So come game time, I'm unsure who actually will be favoured in this one, but before we figure out the great bets and who's going to win, let's look at the ins and the outs. Now, ins and outs for Fremantle. Oscar McDonald comes in, and in comes Sam Switkowski. Out goes Alex Pearce, the captain. What's wrong with Alex Pearce? Hold on. I'm not so sure what his injury is. He only came in for one game, Pearcey, and now he's been sent away. I'll find out for that in a second. Out goes Neil Erasmus, their former top 15 pick, who is out of contract end of the year, by the way. Unsure if Erasmus will break back into that team as they try to march towards September, or he'll be looking to find a place at another team. And for Hawthorn, in comes Kalsha Deer, who did come back in round 10, then was sent back to the VFL to find a little bit of form. He's been playing very well at the lower level, so good to see Kalsha back in the fold. And in comes Finn McGuinness. Now, what will McGuinness do on Saturday? He might be the sub. He's been the sub quite a few times for the Hawks, or he could be used in a tagging role. Now, who would he tag? Well, the options are Caleb Sarong, who's been well held by taggers in the past. James Jordan held him to 11 disposals on Sunday. Or he could be used on the half-forward line and play a negating role against a Jordan Clark. Now, Jordan Clark had to deal with Braden Campbell attention last Sunday. These half-backers and these midfielders, they don't like to be tagged. They're not used to having any sort of attention. Do they not realise that forwards get tagged every week, okay? You've got a big bloke punching you in the back of the head, giving you the spud for all his special every single weekend, and they don't complain, because that's a forward's role, okay? A midfielder needs to deal with attention sometimes. And out for the Hawthorn Football Club comes Max Ramsden and Seamus Mitchell. As I said, the line is pretty much non-existent in this one. What do you guys think? Who are you leaning towards in this one? Predicted forecast is between 7 and 20 millimetres of rain. It has been a very wet winter in Perth, hasn't it? I mean, I remember watching them play against Port Adelaide and it poured rain the whole game. I remember them playing against someone else in the last month or so, and it was wet and wild. And even when they played Essendon, just the surface was all chopped up. It hasn't been a great weather-wise winter at least for Perth. Those people in WA who are very rich with their BHP money seem to tell us they've got the best beaches and weather in Australia, but it hasn't quite been the case this year. Maybe it's global warming. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. Well, what I do know is I don't know what the hell to say betting-wise for this game. It is too hard to figure out. You've got potential tags. You've got players with really high lines like a Brayshaw or a Sarong or a Clark, but they all just had really bad games last weekend, or at least Sarong and Brayshaw did. And on the Hawks side of things, they've got no dominant ball winners who have 25, 35 every single week. I mean, Newcomb is their best midfielder, but he doesn't have 25 disposals every single week. And half back line, you got Amon, who's played a very good role over this season, then went to a more wing role for a couple of weeks, now back to a half back line. I think that's positional versatility that Hawthorn use makes it difficult to bet on them, and also the weather makes this game a no-bet strategy for me. If I pop up with something over the weekend, then maybe give it a follow. But at this stage, I don't see myself betting into this game because it looks a little bit too difficult. But yeah, Darcy_Duncan21 is where you'll find my betting selections and any sort of inane and crazy rants I make about football and sports in general. But I do think Freo will just get home in this one. What is a big game for the Freo Dockers? You look at how they've gone over the last 3 seasons. No finals in 2023. No finals in 2024 after being entrenched in the top 6 with a month left. They lost every single game to end out the season. This is the biggest game for Longmuir in some time. If they can get the result here, it'd go a long way towards securing finals, especially with a tough matchup against the Magpies next Sunday awaiting. They really need to win these games over in Perth. Let's move forward to Sunday football, and I don't mind the game Sunday 1:10 at the MCG. You've got a ruck off. You've got the 2 best rucks, in my opinion, in the competition going head-to-head, potentially to decide who is the All-Australian ruckman for 2025. It is North Melbourne taking on the Melbourne Football Club. These are your ins and your outs. In for Melbourne, Caleb Windsor, the former top 10 pick, Blake Howes, Tommy Campbell, the filmmaker himself. Oh, yes. What's his 3rd club or 4th club? Played for the Saints, played for North, and he played for somewhere else, Tommy Campbell, but he comes into your extended squad. In comes Jack Henderson. Might have played for the Dogs, Tom Campbell. In comes Jack Henderson to their extended bench. Yes, the star from Werribee great team in the last couple of years in the VFL, I think, Jack Henderson. And out comes Harry Sharp. And for North Melbourne, in comes Luke Parker, Jack Darling, Zach Fisher, Callum Coleman-Jones, the former Richmond Tiger, and Charlie Comben, all in the extended squad. Out goes Luke Davies-Uniacke and Nick Larkey. Wow, 2 really big outs for the North Melbourne side. LDU, who suffered a concussion early in the game against... last week they played the Doggies on Thursday night. He hasn't recovered. Obviously, it's only been a 10-day turnaround. It's a 12-day concussion protocol. And out goes Nick Larkey, who injured himself in that game, unfortunately, after kicking 4 goals in about 10 minutes. Nick Larkey will not play against Melbourne on Sunday. He won't get that Larkey-May matchup. How are you reading this one, everybody? Because the margin right now, at least the line, according to the bookies, is 27.5 points. They're pretty confident on Melbourne. I'm unsure why they're so confident on the Ds, especially considering they've only won 6 of their last 22 games. Now, they had a run earlier in the year when they won like 4 or 5 in a row. They started to build a little bit of momentum. They even went to the Gabba, ladies and gentlemen, and they beat the Brisbane Lions. But outside that outlier, I'm being too impressed with Melbourne's form. Cozzy Pickett's playing great footy. I mean, Track and Oliver are just okay. They're just going about their business, having 20-ish touches a week. Max Gorn's been good without being dominant for a number of weeks, and he won't be dominant, I don't think, against Tristan Sherry. I mean, Sherry tailed him up all the way back in round 2, and North Melbourne won by about 40 points. So there could be revenge on Melbourne's mind. But as a North Melbourne backer, I see that team. I see Zurha, Darling, and Curtis. I still think they've got enough to challenge Melbourne's back 6. Midfield-wise, Luke Parker is a huge in for the North. North Melbourne, because Wardlaw is out and LDU is still out. So he had a big role to play on Sunday. Oh, look, I want to tip North, but those outs are huge. I'm going to tip North at the line. I still think North can cover the 27.5 point line, but who's going to win the game? I'm going to be biased, and I'm probably going to be wrong. I'm going to tip North Melbourne. I'll tell you why, okay? Because myself and my great friend Marcus from Hawthorn, we've got a little wager on this year. We've got a futures multi. I'll run you through it, what the selections are. The last leg, unfortunately, is North Melbourne to win 6 games. This is what Marcus and I did about 5 minutes before the first game of the season in opening round. We had Adelaide to win 10 games. Tick. We had Brisbane to win 14 games. Should be a tick. We had Collingwood to win 12 games. tick, very early tick on those Magpies. We have Freo to win 12 games. Currently sit at 9, I think. If we can get the win on Saturday, we're going to go very, very close to getting 12 wins. I still think Freo will win 12 at the end of the day. They play West Coast in 2 weeks. That should be a win. And finally, we have North Melbourne to win 6 games. Now, if they can beat Melbourne on Sunday, they'll need one more win for the rest of the season. And they play St Kilda and they play Richmond still in the back half of the season. So this game is very big for my back pocket and for my credibility and my futures bets. That's why I'm tipping North Melbourne, not because I'm so steadfast and sure they're going to win this contest. I'd just love to see North rise up the ladder. Betting wise, now I don't mind Track and Oliver for 20 plus touches just because North Melbourne have given away a lot of disposals to inside midfielders and just midfielders in general from the opposition over the last 6 weeks. We saw Bont, we saw Richards, we even saw Tom Liberatore have a magnificent game on Thursday night football. Now that trend has continued for the last month or so, so I don't mind Track and Oliver to both have 20, which is 19 on the tab, disposals on Sunday afternoon or early Sunday 1:10. Let's move forward to the 2 games remaining on Sunday. I'm having fun with this one. Don't you feel the energy is really high this week? Like, you know, I'm talking a lot this week, but I'm giving you a lot of stats and a lot of info, so I think you're enjoying it. Anyway, let's move forward to Sunday, 3:20. It's Channel 7, Fox Footy. They've all got this game. It is the game of the round. Not really. St Kilda suck. It is St Kilda taking on the Sydney Swans at Marvel Stadium, 3:20 Melbourne time. The line is 8.5 points the Swans' way. These are your ins and the outs as of Friday, 2:27 p.m. before we have the final teams in. For St Kilda, Liam Stocker, Ryan Burns, Hugh Boxall. They turned my Hugh into a box. Max Heath, Liam O'Connell. Out goes Jimmy Webster and Darcy Wilson. Oh, interesting, Darcy Wilson getting dropped. I think he's been a good player for the Saints. He's been dropped twice this season. Hopefully, you see him back in the team later in the year. And on the Sydney side of things, Peter Laddams, Riley Bice, Aaron Francis, the former top 10 pick from Essendon. Yep, great pick. Ollie Florent, and Corey Warner all come into the extended bench. Out goes Tommy Papley, who suffered yet another soft tissue injury, unfortunately for Pappers, and Joel Amati, who suffered another soft tissue injury and will likely miss the rest of the season. We've got a bunch of milestone games for St Kilda, if you want to hear about them. Mason Wood, game 150, after crossing from North Melbourne, has been a very handy pickup for St Kilda. Anthony Caminiti, 50 games already. Yes, Mr. Grill on the hill has already played 50 games. He's been a mainstay of the Saints since making his debut. What was it, 2 years ago? Very nice pickup. Rowan Marshall, Big Rowie, game 150. Obviously, he's in the papers once again, being linked to the Cats, but also just a move away from the Saints if they are to pick up Tom DeConing this offseason. And Max Heath has been named for his debut game. Unsure if he will line up, though, on Sunday. Excuse me. Too much soy in my guts. Got to burp it out. So, yeah, betting-wise, nothing I really love in this game. I don't mind your Errol Goulden. I mean, Goulden features, the Goulden God, the golden-footed Errol. Yeah, good nickname. I just made up that one yeah. So, yeah, Errol Goulden, I think 25 plus disposals represents okay value, getting it around $1.40, $1.50, potentially a little bit more. Saints don't really tag outside players. They don't really tag people that roll all the way to half back to use their elite kicking skills. So I don't mind Errol. I also don't mind Callum Mills for 20 plus disposals. Now, Millsy is playing that quarterback, that Tom Brady, that Joe Burrow role. He just steps back, kicks it around whoever he wants. Obviously, he can't throw the football. It's a different sport. But he plays a kick or two behind play off the back of stoppage, having kick-ins as well, which I didn't expect when Millsy came back into the team after a long injury layoff. So I don't mind both those players. Two sure-footed Swans who often find the ball in their hands due to their sublime kicking skills. Outside of all that, the Swannies need to win this game. They're trying to march towards September. They need to win pretty much every single game to make it. I think this will be another one as they build momentum. And the Saints, well, they're not getting smashed weekly, but they're also not a team I have much confidence going to win a lot of games. Obviously, they're the only team to lose to West Coast this season. West Coast, yes. Unfortunately, the Saints aren't having a great year, but they've still got a lot of nice young players. Look, Nasiah Wanganeen Miller might be my favourite player to watch right now in the AFL. I wouldn't be betting on him this week, no. Don't just click Nazaya 25 because we expect someone like a James Jordan or a Braden Campbell to go to Nazaya and put some work into him. He's just so dominant and his work rate is so high. You can't allow him to get off the chain and do what he wants, particularly in his conditions at Marvel Stadium where the ball just flings around and somehow is always in his hands. So I would avoid Nazaya this weekend just because the odds won't reflect the attention he's likely to receive. Having said all that, I still think the Swans win by about 15 or so points. Finally, we made it. We made it all the way to Sunday afternoon. Now, if you're a diehard, you're still listening to this podcast because you love listening to me break down all the footy and my insane and inane pontifications and predictions when it comes to AFL. So you finally landed yourself at the game that doesn't really matter. There's one game that really, it just doesn't matter. Unless you're a Port Adelaide fan, and this might be your last win for the year. Yes, it is the Port Adelaide Football Club taking on the West Coast Eagles at the Adelaide Oval. Now, these are your ins and the outs. We've got some extended squads for Port Adelaide and for West Coast, so I'll just run you through who's been included. We've got Ivan Soldo. People call him Ivan. I mean, Danny Frawley and the people at Triple M called him Ivan. He said, no, actually, it's Ivan. It's Ivan Soldo, the former premiership player for the Richmond Tigers. Also coming in is, praise the Lord, Ollie Lord, who's been plying his trade in the sand for the last couple of weeks. I don't mind Ollie Lord. He kicked like 3-4 goals in a final against Brisbane a couple of years ago. Can't be that bad. Also comes in Logan Evans. Manny Liddy, yes, the sleeved one. My man Manny Liddy is back amongst the fold. Rory Atkins, the man I played junior basketball with, a fine point guard and a nice shooter. And also a very good halfback flanker, the rat Rory Atkins. And my man, finally, he's back in the squad. Will Lorenz, the person I traded in as a zero all those months ago, might get his final say. He might get a little bit of time in this Port Adelaide team with Sam Pelpepper, unfortunately ruled out for the season with another ACL injury. Out for Port Adelaide is, of course, Sam Pelpepper. Sucks that SPP is out again this year. He was my Supercoach pick of the year, starting with him playing that brilliant half-forward, tough tackling, goal-kicking role for the Port Adelaide Power. He's unfortunately going to be lost for looks like 12 months. Also out for Port, we've got Asava Radigalea, who suffered an injury. Unfortunately, the Radigalea will not be playing potentially for the rest of the season, we'll see. And also Dante Vincentini, their ruck, who's played so well over the last few months, will also miss with injury. West Coast, in comes Tom Cole, the premiership defender. In comes Matt Owies, the former Carlton player. In comes Noah Long, Tom Gross, Rhett Bazzo, and Terrell Dua, who injured his hammy while fishing. That can't be correct. He injured his hammy while fishing. Get stuffed. Out goes Sandy Brock. Out goes Bo Allen. And out goes, oh no, Tim Kelly dropped. Whoa. I mean, this has been coming probably for a while now. You ask West Coast Eagles fans, he shouldn't have been in the team probably 6 weeks ago. Tim Kelly's output has been so low this year. He's now been thrust as a half forward, which is not his natural position. It's a position he might have played early days at Waffle or early days in Geelong, maybe even up on a wing, considering they had Dangerfield, Selwood and Ablett still rolling around back in 2018. But it's just a shame because Tim Kelly was once one of the best players in the competition. When he left Geelong, he was coming top 5, 6 in the Brownlow. He was dominant and he was so impactful on the scoreboard. I think the issue with Tim is he's the cherry on top. He's like the after dinner mint. He can't be your meat and potatoes. He's not your veg. He's not your shoey. He's not your gaff. He's not even, well, I don't want to say Dom Sheed, but he's better than Dom Sheed. He's not your shoey. He's not your gaff. He's not your brilliant ball-winning 30-touch guy who's going to lead you to finals. And at this stage in his career, having dealt with a couple of injuries, unfortunately, Tim Kelly finds himself back in the Waffle. I'd like to see Tim Kelly get back in the team, potentially at the back end of the year, or even find a new home. But as I discussed at the very start of the year, Tim Kelly's enjoyment for football simply isn't there. So it is a shame to see him out of the team and playing such poor form. He kicked a goal against Collingwood, and I actually thought, wow, maybe he could be employed as a half forward or like a goal sneak, small forward. But West Coast seem to not have him in the immediate plans right now. Betting-wise, the line is 36.5 points. I predicted a little bit of rain, though. Similar to the MCG game, there is showers forming across Melbourne on Sunday and over Adelaide. I still like Port to cover the line, but we'll see how the forecast plays out. On the betting side of things, Zach Butters' 25 touches might be my best suggestion. Now, the odds are only $1.20. But if Butters has 24 or less touches, I'd be stunned. West Coast give up disposals every single week to gun or inside midfielders. Butters has been going along his merry way. The only game he's been really lowered, I think, was the Cats game. Now, I can't remember who had taken that day, if it was Mellon, O'Connor, or even Atkins, but he had about a 58 Supercoach point performance. Outside that, Butters has had 27-30 on everyone. He is a star of the competition, currently deciding where his future lies. I love him at the Essendon Football Club. But yeah, Zachy Butters with 25 touches would be my main bet. Connor Rozee, also a very good chance to have 25 disposals. But I have noticed not always do defenders or get their numbers against a Richmond or a West Coast just because the ball doesn't get there enough. It requires West Coast to have a little bit more of an impact in the midfield through Reid, through Hewitt, through Graham. But if that doesn't happen, then Rozee might not get the way to 25 touches. But he's so influential that I would not rule it out at all. I think Port will win this game. They might have too many more wins the rest of the season, but I think they could play the role of spoiler at the back end. Now, they've still got Rozee, they've got Butters, they've got Georgiades, who's currently kicking 40-something goals on his way to being an All-Australian 2025. I mean, that'd be remarkable after the ACL injury, recovering his form. I think Georgiades could be a really, really good forward in the coming seasons. So they've still got talent, Port Adelaide. And I think they could play spoiler against other top 8 hopefuls, but I can't see them being challenged in this game against West Coast. I also can't see them playing great football against the top 4. They're just a mediocre team right now, trying to figure out what the next era of their football club looks like. That's it. That's the predictions. That's the preview. That's everything you need for round 18. Check out, as I said, my tipping episode on AFL Fancast. Check out the review from last week. And also check out this episode on YouTube and Spotify. And make sure you check out Slam Talk Sports on Instagram and TikTok, all my socials, especially on YouTube as well. And on Twitter, it's Darcy_Duncan21. Do you think Slam Talk Sports needs its own Twitter account? I'm not sure. I'm giving myself enough unpaid work at the moment. We'll assess that in the coming weeks. Until then, enjoy the footy. It should be a great week of AFL action across Australia. I'll be on all the socials talking about it all over the weekend. Hope you enjoy your lovely time. You enjoy the footy and you enjoy what is for many Australians and many Italian Australians across Australia, salami making weekend. Ooh, it will be a cold one, but hopefully a delicious one full of drinks and cured meats. I'll see you all next week. Love you all. This was Slam Talking Sports.